Yeah. Serral with beautiful Overlord positioning as well, just waiting to see what unit will start at that Stargate. So Showtime, I mean, he decides on the Stargate positioning, obviously, so he's comfortable with it, but we'll have to find the Overlord. Serral already trying to hide it, so as soon as he sees the unit, he starts moving the Overlord. Showtime's going to be on the hunt with this Void Ray, but had it been like anything but a Void Ray, then Serral would be a little bit more comfortable, especially if it was something like an Oracle, and the Void Ray won't find the Overlord right away, at least.
Yep, he's going to see all these Phoenix, and that's obviously just fantastic. A little bit of an earlier heads up. Showtime was keeping these back to stack up the numbers and come in with more of a surprise. But now that you know about it, Serral can really just double down on Queen production, double check the spores are in place. You may even want extra spores here, because with the Phoenix, a lot of this is, they're likely to get in and deal damage. But if you can turn them around and minimize that damage, there's not a lot else that can happen. He just straight up throws down the Nidus, but then realizes that might get scouted there. And he is going to place it elsewhere. I mean, that's the biggest part of the scout, the fact he can respond aggressively to it.
Yeah, it's really, really cool. And we see those queens already started. Roaches are going to be the weapon of choice here for Serral. But look at Showtime, actually worthy, already dropping 2 Robos. If he maybe can start a couple of Immortals before transitioning into anything else. But he's also dropping that Twilight Council. And that gives me a little bit less hope for the defense. Serral already with a good defense on his side of things. His worker count is very low at 53 compared to the 66 of Showtime, who's still producing probes. So if this Nidus makes it onto the other side of the map, it's going to be very difficult here for the German.
Yeah, absolutely. And he's going to go for a pretty conservative position initially, just off to that left side. It's not immediately in the tracking path of any of Showtime's units. And Serral is going to get that up. Now, it being off to the side a little bit does give Showtime more time to get up that Immortal count and maybe to get into something of a defense here as Queens and Roaches come streaming out of the Nidus to begin with. Cannons are on the way and the defense is ready in here from Showtime. Let's see if Serral can be deadly with this attack.
Yeah, for Showtime, a little bit of the problem also is that he can't easily forgo his third, as easily as most players would be able to, because he has both of his Probos there. So if that third goes down, it's just as deadly as, I think, Serral breaching into this natural, but Serral doesn't necessarily know that, so he's gonna attempt for the kill move. He very much evaluates that he has to do a little bit more than just kill the third. The Lynx are gonna get us around onto a lot of the units of Showtime, but Showtime with beautiful 2 force fields, as good as they could possibly be, is gonna hold for now, and very, very good trades so far for the German. Nearly 1,500 resources lost ahead of Serral for the time being.
Yep, definitely looking like a convincing hold so far. Put that battery down in a nice place as well. The super battery coming in on the right side. Very safe from Ravages, etc. And it really looks as though we're getting towards a hold here for Showtime. Serral, he's not really broken through a lot of the stack defense. He's switching into a Spire, so he definitely agrees that there is probably a need to move into a little bit kind of more tech and backup plan, because this is just not quite worked out.
Yeah, he's actually going to start droning up, and this is looking already incredible for Showtime. He did start Immortals and continued Immortal production. He didn't really continue to tech up until now, but here is the brilliance of the German, right? Even though it's Serral knocking on his doorstep, he's not going to overreact. He's not going to panic. He's now thought, I held. It's done. It was a Nidus. It was a huge commitment. Whatever. Already, his Templar Archives is finished. That gives him the ability to start Archons if he wishes, or even go into Storm later down the line. He's already adding extra production in the 2 gateways and a War Prism ready to go on the counter offense. And I think that this is going to be an extremely attack from Showtime.
Yeah, he's even got a few Phoenix up, right? So even if you build like a bunch of Mutas, you've already got a head start on dealing with those Mutalisks as well. So I actually don't know what Serral's really going to do. Like, he's got so much gas. I guess he has to just build the Mutas and hope it works out, right? There are 10 of them starting up, but that's just going to power up the ability to go across the map here at Showtime as well. Upgrades in his favor. Charge about to be done. If he realizes he can attack and really does pull the trigger on this, he should have a fantastic time.
Yeah, I mean, I do love the approach from Serral in a certain sense, because it's a panic move. I mean, I don't think that there is a good decision in terms of units, but Muta, at least given the ground army that Showtime was displaying, had Showtime not had the heads-up play to drop that Templar Archives as early as he did, most of his ground army wouldn't shoot up at all, right? So he would have 5 Phoenix against something like 10 to 12 Muta, and then maybe the Muta can hold. And then maybe if Showtime over defense, the Muta can do economic damage, as we're going to see Serral attempt here. But this is just going to mean that Showtime's going to continue to push on through. I do not want to see a recall from Showtime. I would just send the Phoenixes back if I were him.
Yep.
Chase those Muta around and destroy Serral.
Yep, I love what he's starting to do here. Is just going to be seeing these Phoenix do get back, Mutas do get pushed away. Obviously, you can't build any additional Phoenix because those Stargates got empowered. So something to keep in mind is the main push getting ready to go. That's going to be the big question here. Oh man, there's a lot of Queen Roach Ravager. It's scary, but I mean, it's still 3 base against 3 base, so he doesn't even necessarily need to go too much further as he's warping into the main, trying to split this army up.
Yeah, it's so scary. You look at that army on the minimap, and it's such a big, solid red blob, and that's going to make it difficult for the Zealots to really find a lot of surface area. It's going to make it easier for those corrosive vials defensively to actually land onto settled lines, and we know that Serral's capable of doing that just fine. But it's also an army that looks bigger than it is, right? All of these units, their unit size is actually huge. Like, they're chunky units. Mm-hmm. So if Showtime can get on top of it and start breaking through, he will chew through this army.
Yeah, absolutely. It's just going to be seeing the Roach Ravager is getting a few pickoffs here. Serral has some really good micro on this Roach Ravager when he needs it usually, and kind of showing that a little bit. It's Showtime. I love that he's still staying aggressive, though, still giving himself the option to attack in. Serral trying to get that top left side base up, and you know that's going to be real important for him right now, as a Corrosive Bar does connect on an Immortal.
Yeah, I love that you point that out, because Serral has not been making workers this entire time, right? So Showtime is actually gaining just economically just by sitting here. He doesn't need to attack necessarily. He's already doing well, and Serral's gonna recognize that. He's gonna say, I've been making units for too long. If you're just droning up and just sitting on my high ground, I am just gonna starve to death eventually. So he goes for it. But Showtime, I mean, like I said, his army is very, very potent. The army of Serral gets decimated, and this is going to be a little bit of a problem for the Finn, who is trying to scramble and continue to make these Ravagers. He's just going to have to GG.
Going into this game now, we've got ourselves a Stargate already building up. And that means that with the Warp Gate coming too, we're going to see something at least a little bit different. We'll see if Showtime wants to play some kind of double Void here on Blackburn. The other option is Showtime always still does like triple Oracle openings as well, so that's a possibility. I don't know if that's as good on a map like this, and with the Void Ray starting up, looks like we'll see something Void Ray focused at least for now. This Void Ray picking away at a few Zerglings as Showtime obviously wants to deny info. I mean, just straight to Robo Bay, Fleet Beacon. He is very happy to play a long game. It's just, is this really what you want to be doing against Serral? That's the big question. I mean, that's the difficult part of this. I would say generally no, but I mean, if you can't fight Serral in the late game, you can't just rely on ending the game early every time either, right? So I guess I don't mind that Showtime's going to give it a go here. To
apply any sort of pressure. And again, I don't know what information Serral gathered that told him this, but he certainly gathered enough information for this. And it seems like he's kind of getting away with murder. Yeah, the carriers are going to harass, but there's already Vipers out. It's 8 minutes and a half in. He's going to have to recall. I mean, there's Corruptor Viper. That's just absurd.
I love that he got away with everything, though, right? Not a single thing went down. Even the low HP Void survived. I mean, that's kind of necessary when you're playing against Serral, of course. So, yeah, that's that's kind of a good getaway from Showtime. I really thought he was about to lose a whole bunch there, but nope. Just a bit of harassment and just making the most of the units when he can. Even if it doesn't seem like a lot, it's the sort of thing that is going to add up over time. So definitely nice to be seeing a little bit of that coming through. It's definitely going to just give Showtime maybe the right sort of edge, head in the right kind of direction. But again, we're getting to see Serral play in his comfort zone here, and it's going to be fascinating to see just what this late game does look like in the end.
Yeah, the Finesse 1 Broodlord start now into 3 more, so I like that a little bit better. The 1 Broodlord just seems like a little bit of a showing off. I'm like, yeah, there's no way you've thought through some situation where 1 Broodlord comes in very handy. But I mean, I wouldn't put it past them. If someone has, it might just as well be Serral. There's a second Spire also coming up. There was at some point like 105 drones or so, now down to 89 because he's having so much static defense all over the place. So Serral getting set up for his comfort zone. It is also usually or often the comfort zone of Showtime, but like we said earlier, this is the match where Serral is oftentimes unrivaled, right? Like the CVP late game. So props to Showtime to take it here. And actually, excellent feedbacks on those Vipers.
The feedbacks were freaking amazing on every single one. These queens are now going to start falling. The zealots are in this main. Hey, you know, Serral's in some serious issue here. These spawns are going to start showing up. I mean, Showtime's got the Hive on lockdown at the moment. He's going to turn around for the Corruptors. The spores didn't start a burrow properly. He's got the zealots to finish the hive off during this as well. Oh, yes, yes, yes. I think Showtime's continue to just have a great time. Now there are units rebuilding behind this, of course, that Showtime might have to worry about, but he is going to clear out this main base of Serral.
Yeah, this is giving me a little bit of the Goblin Rainer vibes in that ridiculous game that they played last or a couple seasons ago. I can't remember anymore on Jagannatha, because Goblin did something very similar where he kind of just bypassed all of the setup of his opponent and went straight for the main. And then the main was just kind of wide open. And it's exactly what happens here. I mean, not really any spores in position just yet. And again, looking out for those feedbacks. Serral doing everything he can to reposition, to try to get behind the carriers while the Void Rays are up at the front with those Corruptors. But Showtime, quick to reposition himself, doesn't give him too many opportunities to retaliate. And with this, I'm feeling a little bit more confident about Showtime's position.
We are about to be there. As this army wants to kind of sneak on over. The moment is just going to take another step or two back as Ling Roach is going to come through the bottom side.
Yeah, and in a certain sense, this is kind of a good gap for Showtime to try and do damage here right before those Vipers are out and ready again. There is one Viper left over from the previous bunch of Vipers, I suppose, that's full energy. So Showtime still has to be careful. A couple of those Templars will also fall. And the 4 remaining have no energy for Storm. So a few feedbacks are available, but no Storms for the German here. The Mothership not in position either. It's actually skirting around the map, I believe. It'll find an Overlord, but it's looking for a 1-2 punch here and to recall back into the main of Serral.
Yep. I love the just kind of the sitting here waiting, looking for that setup, of course. A few Zealots slipping through here and there. The Spore Crawler Forest is looking good, of course, and that's going to be terrifying for Showtime to attack into. I like where he is at right now, just kind of, you know, threatening the gold minerals. And yeah, now you can recall over here. The Corruptors are like, we've got you. Yeah, but now you don't. Oh, but the High Templar on the low ground. Oh, that's a little awkward, so may have to recall out of here a little sooner than expected.
I don't think he's noticed.
Yeah,
I don't think he's noticed that.
Now they die.
Yeah, I think if he had noticed the High Templar on the low ground, then he just leaves them right there and then on the red zone or something. So they're kind of close to your army, and then on the retreat, maybe you pick him back up. But yeah, I don't think he noticed. So those High Templars are gonna go down for free. Showtime still gets the main of Serral, which puts him 1 base ahead, actually, at this point in time. So that is impressive in its own right. Serral, of course, will remake that right away. Still a profitable move, I think, for the German. But he wanted it to be a little bit better. It's that Overlord that was so pesky, spotting that Mothership, and then Serral having the ability to just, you know, section off a few Corruptors and go hunting.
One thing to note here, really, though, is as well the fact that the resources lost is pretty close, right? Like, and even favoring Serral. A lot of the time you see the Zerg has lost more and they take more bases. That's not really true here so far, so that's something just to keep in mind, because if that doesn't change over time, it could be a little bit of a talking point for us as to kind of how the game, you know, sizes up for itself in the late game. As Showtime just pressure in the front again, not going to do too much with that, just a little bit of pressure, looking to see what's up. A few Zealots top right. Yeah, obviously this game for now, going to stretch on out.
Yeah, it's going to be a Spore Forest all over the place here for Serral. And a lot of Void Rays, actually, with Prismatic Alignment here, trying to find something, but Serral, one single Corruptor here. He's gonna spot the Void Rays, get the information, and go tell his friends. His friends are now coming, and that's a scary fleet.
Yeah, that's kind of an amazing little way to play that, huh? That was kind of fun as we get ourselves these Voids just getting kind of caught completely. That's not really what you wanted to have happen, so that's a little bit painful at the moment.
Yeah, he's just hyper aware, right? Like a lot of the time when you leave units like that, what tells you is your commander, your unit is under attack. Oh, okay, that ping on the map tells me that there's something there. But Serral actually reacts just so fast to just seeing the little blob on the minimap and doesn't need any of that. So just moves his Corruptor as fast as possible. I'm not even sure how. Like, I guess he clicked on the minimap. I doubt he had a single Corruptor hotkey. But yeah, just that type of efficiency there is so beautiful to see. Gonna net him a lot of Void Rays there. And
really nice.
Yeah, I mean, that's gonna elongate his advantage in terms of resources lost as well, what you were mentioning.
Yeah, no, it's those Void Rays are useful as well, right? Like, I see right now we're just going to go like kind of mass carrier, which is interesting, because then I'm not sure how comfortable you're really going to feel when it comes to trying to, you know, get rid of the Corruptors a little bit. So intrigued to see how that plays, but I mean, there are going to be a lot of carriers, so that's for sure.
Yeah, I think those Void Rays were on a very cool mission to go you know, as north as they can, get hit by a couple of spores on their way in, but they're fast enough that they're, you know, maybe you lose whole HP on maybe 1 or 2 Void Rays, get to the back of that northern base, top right-hand side base from Serral, snipe it, recall, and that's that, right? Like, and that would have been a beautiful move, but unfortunately for Showtime, the opposite happens, where he ends up losing a lot more value. It was a high-risk maneuver, I suppose, but yeah, really only if you're playing against one of the best in the world.
These carriers, the mothership, they're really poisoned to try and fight here. Massive Fungal's going to land, and the Broods want to get forward here and try and take advantage. The Storm does go down, the Interceptors launch, but now they are getting Fungaled. Try and target down a Viper, which I don't know if it went down or what. A new Viper shows up, and that's going to get targeted down for sure by those Interceptors. So getting rid of some of them, as the carriers are taking so much damage from these parasitic bombs, though finally we're splitting up a little bit.
Yeah, one detail there that I absolutely love for Serral as well. As soon as I see the Ultras go into the base of Showtime there, I wonder, is there a Dark Shrine available? Because you should just warp in a couple of Dark Templar and defend that, right? Like, that's like kind of the cookie cutter response to Ultras in particular. Like, Dark Templars will do full damage with those swipes, and they can get rid of them, and there's usually not, you know, if you send in 2 Ultras, surely there's not going to be an Overseer. I look to the right of my screen, there's an Overseer right outside of vision of Showtime, so if he warps in Dark Templars, not only are they ineffective, they'll probably also die, because they'll think there's no Overseer here, and Serral's just super ready for it.
There goes the Mothership. It dropped the time warp down as, you know, Showtime really wants to protect this kind of position on the 6 o'clock. Continuing through, Spores are in a fair amount of trouble to begin with here as well. But, I mean, is it enough overall as these Infestors try and get forward? There's a pretty sizable Fungal, and there is a Refungal as well. Parasitic Bomb is down. The splash damage is going to be stacking up. Beautiful split, honestly, on the carriers. I mean, I think that's the best carrier split I've ever seen, but so many of them are just so heavily damaged already.
That's absurd. Yeah, I mean, so much damage stacked up on top of each other, like those Parasitic Bombs on top of the Fungals. I mean, one Parasitic Bomb you can kind of shrug off, but when it's Fungal on top of it, on top of another Parasitic Bomb, and so on and so forth, I mean, these Corruptors are having a lot easier of a time picking off these massive units in the carriers and just the air fleet in general. So Showtime's actually going to be forced to warp in some Stalkers for the first time in the game, but hey, these are actually very effective if they can get under the Broodlords. A lot of Broodlords are getting now one shot effectively. Some Stalkers get chopped up to potentially click on a Viper, don't end up doing so. They are leaving the carriers exposed, however, so the Corruptors are doing work there. The Broodlords go down, the carriers go down, all the expensive units have gone down. Now Serral remaxing on ground, that is Ultras coming out, and they are going to fare really well against the Stalkers, but they can be outmaneuvered if there isn't Fungal available. And so there's 6 Infestors too.
Yeah, no, it was a cool idea, right? We see it a lot in kind of super late game PvZ nowadays, where the Protoss is like, we have a big fight and then I rebuild the Stalkers to kind of really power through and to win out in the end. And yeah, I think obviously you see these Stalkers coming through, just going to try and do a little bit more. I mean, they're doing okay against the Ultras. They get infested as well, but Serral just has so much altogether, and he knows, I think, that he is very comfortable just given a little bit of time. There's not really going to be many problems for him.
Yeah, but I mean, the Stalkers have still traded very well. Here's the Fungal that I was talking about earlier. I mean, that is kind of the triumph card for this Ultras. They will no longer get kited. The other alternative was Lynx, so I love that Serral kind of did both, for the Lynx to buy time and just kind of skirmish with the Ultras against those Stalkers until the Infestors show up. Then the Infestors kind of take over. At the same time, Showtime, no sleeper here, already has killed 11 workers at this top side base, and now with the extra Zealot warp-ins, forcing Serral to engage, forcing him to back and do his thing here on this side of the map. Serral has remaxed. Showtime is out of money, however, so it looks like the Germans running out of gas finally, and the Finn might end up equalizing this game, but what a game it has been.
Yeah, what a game it has been. I feel like Showtime got a lot of decent positions up at times and stuff like that, but I mean, Serral's late game, you know, even when certain things didn't look great for him, he was actually still trading efficiently, he was still overall looking good. Serral's just so good at this stage of the game, and at the end of it, I mean, yeah, some concerning moments, but overall, Serral just looking like the monster he is. And again, remember that with the map win from Serral, he pretty much guarantees himself first place in the group. Showtime can't overtake him anymore, so that was the, you know, the kind of more important map to be won here today for Serral to guarantee himself that first place.
Yeah, for sure. Showtime trying to make happen some whatever he can make happen. Really, some magic would be wonderful here. It's gonna be very unlikely. A ground force is now all he has. Birdlers is gonna be super effective against this army. So Serral, it's just a matter of closing things out. He's gonna kind of do the checkmate move here. Showtime only has one mining remaining base in the top left-hand side. So Serral securing that last base against his opponent, killing that last base before collapsing onto this army. And that means that if this army falls, that is all that Showtime has left to keep him in this game.
Yeah, Showtime's walking around with this ground force, which is just not going to last forever. I mean, Serral has 13 broods, he's got infestors, he's got vipers, right? He just has what he needs realistically. I mean, given a bit more gas, I'm sure he's going to keep on adding broodlords as well, because that's absolutely the best thing he can probably add to this army at this point as well. So I'm sure we're going to be seeing just a little bit more of that. As yeah, it's been just a very comfortable kind of setup for a little while now for Serral. It's just a matter of actually fighting the fight, and that is difficult because obviously you're playing, you know, broodlords and stuff, and they're slow moving, they're not easy to find fights with. So that is the biggest issue right now, that, you know, it is kind of Showtime that has to attack in a Serral, which gave Showtime some time, but obviously he's not really mining that much anymore as well. So the longer you wait, the less he's mining. Well, he just has to go at some point soon, and it's a nice attempt with these storms, but Serral's microing this army wonderfully as well.
Yeah, and that is so many broodlords. I think the hope for Showtime was, hey, maybe if I can get a high enough supply army, and you still have a lot of supply dead in terms of corruptors, right? I just don't remake any of my air, they're too expensive. And maybe I can break through on the ground, but Serral smartly, like you've been saying, making those broodlords is the best thing that you can do with those corruptors right now. And he also is willing and happy to forfeit a lot of those bases that are going to be less, like, more difficult to defend, because then you would be fighting with half of your army only on the ground or something like that, and that's how you give your opponent some opening. So instead, he's going to force Showtime onto the lower end of the map. Follow his same opening in terms of, like, just what tech building he's going to be opening with in every game of the series. It's going to be the Stargate. Most protoss will lean towards that, so of course no huge surprise there. What would be a little bit of a surprise, but not out of the realm of possibility, would be something like a Queen Walk on this map from the side of Serral, who is now secured that first place, like you were saying, towards the end of that last game. So this might be an opportunity to kind of display a little bit of range on his side, get some practice with that very effective, known to be very effective, kind of like earlier timing that he's used to playing. You could also argue, hey, if you're just invincible in the matchup, don't even bother, right? But but if you want to display some more range, if you don't want to get metagamed and stuff like that, Queen Walk on this map could be a possibility.
Yeah, it's gonna be a an interesting few moments here as the Spire drops down from Serral. So we'll see what he does along with the Spire. Infestation Pit as well, so really just getting himself set up into a bit of everything. But I feel like Showtime's got a lot more push potential this time, so I don't feel like Serral is necessarily going to be able to get away as easily as he did last time.
Yeah, 2 hallucinated Phoenix on the side of Showtime, so he's saying, you're not gonna kill these, no chance. Goes all the way to the corner of the map as well, so he's looking for that information. Will he find what he's looking for? I don't think he gets to see the Spire, does he? Where is that Spire even?
It's right there. It's just right in between the like, that is a crazy place for the Spire, but it is unlikely to move. No, if Nial's shown it, it's like
there.
And that's
insane.
Yeah. It's really crazy, actually.
Yeah. Do you think Serral was actually anticipating that type of scout from Showtime? Because I also haven't seen many players go to the very outskirts of the map, right? Because usually the Spire is going to be tucked behind the mineral line, one of the mineral lines. So Showtime saying, I'm going to scout behind all of the mineral lines, and Serral saying, I'm going to put my Spire just about as far away as possible from the mineral lines as I can.
I mean, it's perfect. It's the one place that the Showtime is just not seen at all in the game, so to be honest,
that's
it's
insane.
Really smart.
Wow.
However, he's already making Phoenix, so I feel like he's already got an idea. He's like, well, something's up, like it's not adding up, and now he sees the Spire, but well, Phoenix is already on the way, so yeah, Showtime was already playing well.
Yeah, and one thing that I actually don't know if I super like there from Showtime is to actually react with the Phoenix, right? Like, he sees the Spire, but he also controls the Phoenix in that moment. I feel like if he doesn't control the Phoenix, if I'm Serral, I don't know that he has seen the Spire, because there's a lot of red on the minimap there. And if I'm Showtime, I'm not always looking there to look for the tech building in that position, right? So So maybe the Muta can run into Phoenix a little bit more unexpectedly if you don't give that information away if you're Showtime. But yeah, they're gonna come into the third base regardless. And let's see, there's already a cannon situated. The shield battery is gonna buy a little bit of time. The cannon in the back will get picked off, but now here come a few Phoenix, including a hallucinated one. So kind of puffing up his chest is Showtime, saying I got a little bit more here than you can handle.
Yeah, I like it, and he's actually getting some good damage done. These mutas are really not doing much at all to begin with, honestly. So yeah, just getting shut down, and he's still making mutas. So Serral is really doubling down on the idea of, hey, like, I want to play mutas here. I want a mutalist count in this game, and I will get it if that's what I want.
Yeah, he gets what he wants, but I'm not sure if it's what he needs at this point. I mean, Showtime has done a very good job defending, but hey, to Serral's credit, Showtime has kind of stopped after this first few Phoenix, right? He's not remaking anymore. He's now going into Archons and back into the low ground, into the ground army composition. So he's not gonna expect this bigger number of units to show up again, and that hallucinated Phoenix is gonna end up playing against them because he ultimately has one less Phoenix than even Serral perhaps thinks he has.
Yeah, the super battery pops, and the mutas can get rid of that pretty quick. It's a lot of mutalists, and they're just going to dive through here, taking a lot of damage, but dishing out some hurt as well. Going to relocate around the side, and now he's going to jump back onto Phoenix. So Phoenix still taking some hits. And yeah, these mutas doing an alright job, don't get me wrong, but at the same time, like, it's, you know, they are taking damage, they are taking losses, and Showtime's holding this off, and he's counterattacking through the center.
Yeah, and that's enough Archons that the Muta are going to struggle to go on top of those, but they're going to find themselves some stranded disruptors here. Two will go down. And with that, Showtime may not feel as comfortable just moving across the map. If there's enough roaches or something of the likes, those disruptors are just not going to carry their weight. Serral with a huge run by uncharacteristic of Showtime not to be paying attention of that, but difficult to blame him as well. Serral knows that Stalkers have been moving around between these bases and that maybe there's no blink available. So they would have had to have been opening doors. And he will choose to capitalize with these Zerglings as there isn't a unit in position. The Muta is still plentiful in numbers. Now Showtime finally going back for those Phoenixes. I feel like a little bit stubbornly. After seeing that many more Muta, he still decided maybe I just have enough ground army. Maybe I can handle this with the Stalkers. He won't make any more. But Serral has continued to make Muta. Phoenix are now being produced. The counterattack from Showtime is big, but a lot of spines here to welcome him.
Yeah, there's so much waiting, and you can just see Serral shutting down gates as well, so he's stopping reinforcements from warping in. He's just doing the right things with these mutalists, and man, this Archon Immortal Force is just going to be whittled away at it. There's not much left on it, and Serral is going to pull out the 2-1 victory in the end. He looked pretty comfortable in this game.